former lowlife, but now people call me the king. Tearing it up with every lyric that I bring to the table. Because I'm willing and able, I'm in more homes than Comcast cable. I got the skill that'll rattle your brain. I'm a threat like Saddam Hussein, everybody know my name. Joe Habib's a top soldier, kid they should've told you really need to pack a lunch. My words hit hard just like a Tyson punch. So give me a chance, I bet you I can make you dance. Show me your girl, I bet you I get in her pants. I'm breaking egos and money is what I'm stacking. Joe Habib on the mic, you know I'm down for action. Shout out to Make Beats Sir and the Beat Smith and the whole Rope a Dope radio crew. Yeah. All right, what's going on, everybody? I know you guys are probably saying to yourself, Beeb, just let it go, let it go, let it go. But somebody has to do the research. Somebody has to tell the truth, right? Somebody has to provide the facts, because for some reason, not that I'm better than anyone, not that I walk a higher path than anyone, but I just can't allow propaganda and false information to continue to be spread out there. And this is no attack on anyone, right? I know people say I'm anti-VADA. I'm not necessarily anti-VADA. I have some questions about VADA. I have some disagreements about VADA. And I don't like the fact that they have some sort of connection to Victor Conte. And I'm going to explain that and read an article and some quotes from Margaret Goodman to me. And I'm not saying this is nefarious on any part of Margaret Goodman, because I like Margaret Goodman. I believe her heart's in the right place, but Victor Conte is very good at what he does. He's a good salesman. He's a good con artist. And quite frankly, what he's doing, it's not illegal. So I'm not saying he's doing anything illegal here, but there is 100%, in my opinion, and again, my opinion, I stress, a gigantic conflict of interests. And because Margaret Goodman does not really have a background, in chemistry, she doesn't have a background in sports medicine, right? She's not 100% well-versed in supplementation and performance-enhancing drugs. So she's being told things by Victor Conte, and she's believing him, right? Because Victor Conte makes a lot of, let me just say, questionable claims about specific drugs, right? Drugs that he's never really given to his athletes. He says he has, but if you look at the Balco scandal reports, he's never given these drugs to his athletes because he knows that they're not exceptionally effective. And I'm not defending these athletes for taking some of these drugs, but I am going to give you a plausible reason why some of these drugs were caught in athletes' systems. And I'm going to explain to you why the WADA protocol is not the greatest protocol. I don't agree with it. And I do believe that Victor Conte has convinced Margaret Goodman to come up with their own protocol, different from WADA, UCAD, USADA, and every other country's drug association or drug organization testing agency. There's a reason why they did that. And Victor Conte had a very heavy influence in that. So let's just cut to the chase. So much is being said about drug-free sport. And truth be told, I don't know a ton about them. I have done some research about them, right? But they're being questioned. Why were they used? How competent are they? And people have gone out and said that, well, they do the PGA, the NFL, the NBA, NASCAR. They've done a lot of sports. They've had a lot of contracts with a lot of mainstream sports out there, right? But with that being said, people are still questioning the credibility of this drug testing organization. And they're saying, well, VADA is way better. Why didn't they just use VADA? We wouldn't have had this problem, right? So I have to do the research because a lot of you won't. You know what it's like too? If you go back to that movie Revenge of the Sith, right? When they had the Jedi purge and Yoda knew what happened at the Jedi temple. He knew that Anakin slaughtered all those Jedi, those little Padawans, right? The Jedi Padawans. And Obi-Wan wanted to go there and see if Anakin was there. And Yoda told him, Obi-Wan, if you go there, you may not like what you find, right? Meaning there was a tape there of Anakin killing all the Jedi. And Yoda really didn't want Obi-Wan to see that. So I feel like there's a lot of people out there that don't really want to dig down deep into some of this stuff. And they just want to accept the information that's being fed to them because they don't want to know the truth. They're not going to like what they find. It's not going to support the narrative that they want to believe, right? A lot of people have been fed information for a long period of time, and they accepted that information, and they put a lot of time into using that information, for their research, for their journalism, for their articles, their videos, this so-called drug crusade, the war on PEDs that we now have in the sport of boxing so conveniently, because it's kind of a popular topic and it gets clicks. But people don't really, it's like politics. It's like you're looking for confirmation bias to believe what you want to believe. And I don't have a dog in the race. I honestly don't, right? Not against PED testing, right? But again, I'm not 100% for it. I'm kind of agnostic to it. I understand why it exists, but I'm kind of agnostic to it. So I know I'm kind of filibustering here a little bit, but let me just get right to the point, because the main problem here is we're being asked, well, why was drug-free sport used? And I guess there's a rumor. I don't even know how true this is, that the samples were collected and they were laying around for 9 days before they actually went to the lab. Again, that's what's being said. It's been reported. I don't even know how true that is, but it is what it is. If it's true, it's true. There's nothing I could do about it. Nothing Aaron can do about it. Nothing anyone can do about it. So I'm going to go to an article that it has Margaret Goodman's quotes in it because she was being interviewed. This is from the Daily News, and this is back in 2012, right? And I believe this was the first fight that VADA was involved in. This was in between Andre Berto and Victor Ortiz, right? And this is when Andre Berto was a snack-sponsored athlete, right? And I'm just going to read to you something that's quite interesting. So Margaret Goodman's just describing the process, right? And she says, urine and blood samples from the athletes are collected and handled by the Swedish agency International Drug Testing Management, which most people just call IDTM, and I've talked about them before, right? What International Drug Testing Management is they have a staff of drug collection officers. I believe they have 500 of them, and they use them all over the world. So basically you can contract out them to, if you want, if you're VADA or if you're drug-free sport, if you wanted to contract them out to do your, to do your drug collecting, if you wanted to hire their drug collection officers or their blood collection officers, right? A lot of times you'll have a drug collection officer and they're also a blood collection officer, right? So they're certified to also draw blood on some occasions. Sometimes they're not. So sometimes you'll have to have one DCO there and one BCO there, or you could have one DCO there who's certified to do the urine and the blood, right? So good. This is what Goodman says now. So they use IDTM, International Drug Testing Management, and they also use them. If you remember, we talked about this when Brandon Rios fought Manny Pacquiao back in 2013, right? Brandon Rios was tested by VADA, and he was also tested by the Chinese anti-doping agency. So he gave a sample to a collector from the Chinese anti-doping agency, and he also gave a sample to IDTM, which was being used by VADA for that fight. So VADA uses IDTM for their drug collection, right? The drug collection, the samples, right? For their drug collection officers, right? They use them. They use IDTM, right? They contract them out and they hire them for their collectors, right? So Goodman says IDTM is one of the most respected companies in the world. Samples are tested at the UCLA lab, which is an approved WADA anti-doping agency. So again, I told you in the United States, right, there's two labs, two WADA accredited labs, UCLA Olympic Analytical Laboratory, and that's in Los Angeles, and the Sports Medicine Research and Testing Laboratory, which is SMRTL, which is also used. Now, obviously, if there's fights being done on the West Coast, which that fight was, they used the UCLA lab in Los Angeles. Alycia Baumgardner, her test samples went to the lab in Salt Lake City, and I already explained this in the tweet that I put out a couple days ago. There's only two accredited labs, WADA accredited labs in the United States, and there's one accredited lab in the United Kingdom, or in Great Britain, United Kingdom area, to my knowledge. I looked at it on the WADA accredited labs list, and in Great Britain, in Great Britain, I should say, not in the UK. I apologize. I don't want to misrepresent the information. In Great Britain, there's one WADA accredited lab, and that is the Drug Control Center, King's College in London. So in Great Britain, there's one, right? So fights are in I'm assuming if UCAD is administering the drug testing protocol, which more often than not they are, if it's going to be in Great Britain, then they're going to collect the samples and they're going to send them to that lab, right? So that's one lab, and that's two labs, one in the UK, and two in the United States. And if you look all over the world, there's not a ton of these labs, right? Germany, there's two. France, there's one. China, as big as China is, right? Their lab, their WADA accredited lab, is in the Beijing Anti-Doping Laboratory at the Beijing Sports University. So a country as big as that has one WADA accredited lab. So that's the issue here when we have why are these tests taking so long? Because there's only a few amount of these labs. That's number one. And number two, you don't know how many samples they're getting a day. If only one lab is doing the analysis on these tests. And again, I've said this many times, it's not like you're getting a blood glucose test or you're getting a cholesterol test. This is a wide panel of testing that you're getting done for 20 to 30 PEDs, potential PEDs, right? That you could be tested positive for. So this is a big list, and it's an extensive list, especially the blood portion of the testing is very extensive, right? It's not as simple. Why can't they expedite the testing? Well, the problem is there's every year more and more substances are put on this WADA banned list, so the tests are going to continuously be more extensive, right? They're going to be more cumbersome, and they're going to take longer. And because, again, not to sound redundant, but there's not enough laboratories that these samples can be sent to, right? So that's always going to be part of the problem. No matter who's collecting the samples, no matter who the testing organization is, this is never going to be an expeditious process because of the wide panel of drugs that are being tested for and the small amount of WADA accredited labs that we have across the world. Country like China only has one WADA accredited lab. So it is what it is, people. So VADA uses IDTM. They outsource them to do the collecting for them, right? Well, I'm going to reveal something that probably wasn't told to you, right? And you don't probably know. Guess who else uses IDTM? Drug-free sport. They use IDTM too, right? And those samples were collected by IDTM, right? Because they have partnered up with Drug-Free Sport. There's a link to IDTM on Drug-Free Sport's website. They're partnered up with them, right? So both VADA and Drug-Free Sport use the same collectors outsourced by IDTM. Guess who doesn't use IDTM? USADA, UCAD. You know why? Because they have their own DCOs and BCOs, right? And if you go on like YouTube and you see their videos, and Christine, shout out to Christine Lopez, who works with amateur boxers, and she's very familiar with USADA. She'll tell you they send 2, 3, 4 DCOs, and they're very efficient. They're very polite, right? They're very professional. Whereas again, this is a rumor. Brandon Rios back in 2013, VADA was hired to do that testing, and so was the Chinese anti-doping organization as well. He gave both the IDTM collector and the Chinese anti-doping collector a sample, right? And the Chinese anti-doping sample came back clean, just like Conor Benn's UCAD sample come back clean. UCAD, USADA, the Chinese anti-doping organization, they all do in and out of competition testing. They all do the same thing, and they all send the samples to the same lab. But the one difference is the collectors. And again, I'm not trying to say IDTM is incompetent. They're horrible. But you have two sets of collectors, one from UCAD and one from IDTM. You had two sets of collectors, one from IDTM and one from the Chinese testing organization, right? And more often than not, it's always the IDTM collectors samples that are coming up positive, right? And they're based out of Sweden. And Brandon Rios, and again, this is what he said. This is what Robert Garcia said. I'm not co-signing it. They said the IDTM collector came to their room after the Pacquiao fight, and they didn't have a sample collection kit, and they had him pee in a glass, and it took 20 minutes for the kit to get there, right? And then they had to transfer the urine into the sample kit 20 minutes later. Whether or not that had an impact on the results, I don't know. But there's two instances where samples were taken at pretty much around the same time, Conor Benn, Brandon Rios. And the IDTM samples come up positive, and the UCAD samples and I want to just get the name for the Chinese organization. It's the Chinese Anti-Doping Agency, the CHINADA. That sample came up clean, as well as the UCAD sample came up clean. But the one common denominator here is the IDTM sample comes up positive. All right? I don't know. Is it a coincidence? Is it incompetence? I don't know. But you're going to have Victor Conte, right, go out here and try to say all the other testing organizations are shit right? But VADA is better than all of them but VADA, just like drug-free sport, is using IDTM and as the collection agency, and they're going to the same lab. So again, tell me what's going on here. Where's the disconnect? How could one be better than the other if they're both doing the same thing? They're using the same labs and they're using the same collectors. Well, why is USADA so much money? Well, because they're not outsourcing their DCOs and their BCOs, right? And when you outsource employees, guess what? You don't have to pay them a constant salary. You only pay them when you use them, right? You don't have to pay them benefits. You don't have to pay them travel. You don't have to pay them lodging, right? You don't have to do all that, right? And USADA is nonprofit, but once again, you still got to pay employees. You still got to hire employees. So the reason why USADA is more than VADA is because they have more employees, and they're in charge of the adjudication process. So you're going to have more staff to handle that, right? So again, there's a reason behind why VADA is so cheap, and this is not me knocking them, but here's where the problem lies for me with VADA. Because if you look at this article, right, comparing VADA to an Olympic athlete is a bit apples and oranges because of the year-round training of an Olympic athlete versus the bout-by-bout training schedule of a fighter, the governance structure of the sport. But the random nature and breadth of testing in the VADA program is certainly on par and may even exceed the testing that most Olympic caliber athletes are subject to. Now, here's the problem, right? When you start to make claims that your testing is better than everyone else's, when you're not doing anything different, in fact, you may be doing things that are inferior, right? And then in this article, we've consulted with many experts, we've talked to people from WADA, and also talked to controversial Balco founder Victor Conte, who is working with Berto and has become a staunch anti-doping advocate in the years following his guilty plea in the Balco case. We all know that. We're not going to go into that. Everyone knows what Victor Conte's background is, right? While Conte continues to have his detractors, including USADA, many in the boxing world who are affiliated with VADA see no downside to Conte on the opposite side. So Victor Conte has a beef with USADA because they were the ones that pretty much caught all of his athletes that he was supplying with steroids, right? And he's trying to say that they overcharged him and, they trumped up the charges and they exaggerated things, whatever. I'm not even going to get into that. I don't even know. He goes, and so Margaret Goodman says, when I originally conceptualized VADA, I consulted with scientists, condition experts, trainers, and fighters on PEDs, said Goodman. Who could not be impressed? She said, who could not be impressed with what Travis Tiger did in the United States Doping Association and former UCLA lab founder Don Catlin, who may consider the father of anti-doping accomplished, right? With that said, the intricacies of the drug testing, the process which the world-class athletes have used, PED detection, no one, this is what she says. So she's consulted with Travis Tiger, who's in charge of the United States Anti-Doping Association, all right? And she also talked with the UCLA Olympic lab founder Don Catlin, right? Who many consider the father of anti-doping, right? And she says, how can you not be impressed with what they've accomplished? She goes, with that being said, right? This is what she goes on to say. The process. Okay, let me go back down here. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here. It's all over the place. Okay. So here she goes on to say, with that said, the intricacies of drug testing, the process that the world athletes have used to avoid PED detection, no one, this is what she says. This is the problem here, right? She says no one understands the process, right? And has the insight and understands the landscape of drug testing like Victor Conte. And Victor Conte's name comes up several times in this article, right? So, Beeb, what's your problem with Victor Conte? Well, first of all, she's comparing Victor Conte to scientists, chemists, and with Travis Tiger, right? All these people have credentials, certifications in the industry, and Victor Conte is a bass player, right? So, B, why like Victor Conte has a knowledge? I mean, he just showed people how to cheat. Yeah, but he was working with the chemist. He didn't create those drugs himself. The chemist did, right? And he's the one who is trying to say, oh, that stimulants out of competition should be banned, right? And he was the one that convinced her to have basically just one list, telling her you don't need an in competition list and an out of competition list, right? And I'm going to explain to you. This is from the Medical Encyclopedia, and this is from people who've studied drugs, right? This is the problem, okay? Concerning stimulants are banned only in competition, as any advantage they give is transient in nature. Transient means short-lived. And as a total ban would be difficult given that many over-the-counter medications contain stimulants, in addition to the stimulants obtainable as prescription medicine. And, so basically this says that a lot of over-the-counter drug medicines that you take for cold and congestion have a lot of these stimulants in them. And this drug that Billy Joe Saunders tested positive for is oxyfrin, right? Oxyliofrin, right? Which is basically a methylphenephrine, right? And this is in a lot of cold medicine, right? And this is why this is not banned, out of competition, because it's in a lot of cold medicine. Victor Conte was trying to say that this drug, right, oxyliofrin, is 10 times more powerful than clenbuterol without having any scientific data to back it up, which is totally false. Because I've taken both. I haven't taken oxyliofrin, but I've taken synephrine. And usually when methylphenephrine or synephrine is in a supplement, it's usually stacked with other supplements to enhance the effect of it. When clenbuterol, you take that, you feel like your heart's going to rip out of your chest. So because he wanted to sensationalize the effect of that, right? Because he was trying to convince her to have their own protocol, right? So they can catch more people, so they can turn around and say, well, we're catching more people than everyone else, so we must be better. Well, B, why would he do that? Well, I'm gonna explain that too, right? Because you see him out there being a staunch supporter and a big advertiser for VADA tests, right? So what's this connection between him and Margaret Goodman? Well, what he's doing is, in this situation, he paid for he sponsored the VADA testing for the Berto Ortiz fight. He also sponsored the VADA testing for the Andrade Billy Joe Saunders fight, right? So I'm saying to myself, why are all these people he's sponsoring snack athletes, right? And he's actually paying for their tests in certain instances, right? And then I'm saying to myself, I go to the VADA website, and it says on there about us, we're here to consult and educate and advise people on non-PED supplements that they can take. So I'm sitting there saying to myself, if he's sponsoring these athletes and he's paying and he's sponsoring the testing, right? And she's recommending supplements. It's this is like a horrible conflict of interest here, because he's sponsoring the athletes and he's paying for the testing for VADA. So I'm saying to myself, is she referring these athletes to him to take for his supplements, and is he, and in turn, is he referring them for their testing, right? So only he is the one that believes that stimulants should be banned out of competition, right? And only he is exaggerating how strong and some of these drugs are. And a lot of these stimulants are in a lot of supplements. They're in there in small amounts. They're tainted. They're in a lot of tainted supplements, right? They're in a lot of cult medicines, right? So if you were to just ban them, right, across the board, it's very easy that a lot of people are going to test positive for trace amounts of these supplements if they're taking cold medicines, or if they go to a GNC and they buy something like Stack 3D. Oh, well, they should know what's going in their body. Okay, but if you look at that substance that Brandon Rios tested positive for, right? Let me pull it up again because I actually forgot. I think it was DMAA or something. I think it's a stimulant, actually. It's banned, DMA. Yeah, it's DMAA. I just want to clarify that. So that's a supplement, right? That was found, right, in 100 supplements, and it wasn't listed on the label, right? So that was banned by the FDA, right? So the problem we have here is there's so many tainted supplements out there, and 100 supplements were tainted with that substance that Brandon Rios tested positive for, and it's not even listed on the bottle. So this whole strict liability thing, it's hard to just say, oh, you're responsible for what you put in your body if you're taking something and it's not listed on the bottle. And there's no way you're going to know it's in there if it's not listed in the bottle, because a lot of these supplement companies, because they're not FDA regulated, they sneak them in there. Or maybe they're contaminated because the labs themselves are not FDA inspected. So the conflict of interest here is people being led to believe that VADA is better than everyone else just because Victor Conte tells you that. And no disrespect to Margaret Goodman, but she bought the con job that Victor Conte was trying to sell her, right? Oh, well, you need to create your own protocol. The WADA protocol is not effective enough. Not according to the Medical Encyclopedia journal, it's not. You look in the Medical Encyclopedia, see, again, he makes these claims and he has no scientific data to back them up. He once claimed when he got caught with the clear, that the clear, right, that the clear was not as effective as steroids, right? When it clearly is, right? There's definitely data to support what the clear does. And he was trying, and he didn't even design the clear. He had a chemist design the clear, right? So he lies and cons people, right? Because he's an opportunist. He wants to sell supplements. He wants to sponsor athletes. He wants to sell them his consultation services. And he's sponsoring them by paying for the VADA testing. And who knows if she's giving him a discount because he's sending so many athletes over there to buy the tests. And in turn, this quid pro quo, she could be referring athletes to use his supplements. Oh, Beeb, well, how can you draw that conclusion? I mean, come on, bro, connect the dots. Why is he sponsoring these athletes and paying for the actual testing? And why are all these athletes who signed up to this program, why are they all sponsored snack athletes? To sit there and say there's not a direct connection here is just totally disingenuous, people. It's totally disingenuous. So we're going to set up our own protocol because Victor Conte advised us to, right? And we're going to say we're better than everyone else because we're catching more people, and you're really not, right? So that's the problem. So everyone wants to like blame Eddie Hearn here, right? Simon Jordan wants to know, why are you using this agency instead of VADA? So Simon, explain to me what the differences are, right? They're using the same company to do the sample collecting, right? They're using the same company to do IDTMs, doing the collections, right? And they're sending the samples to the same lab, right? So if you have an issue, right? If you have an issue of why, if this is true, those samples were lying around for as long as they were, then you need to contact IDTM and Drug Free Sport. And Margaret Goodman just told you IDTM is the best. So again, if VADA is better or is the gold standard, right? Because for the sheer fact, right? If VADA is the gold standard for the sheer fact that Victor Conte told you so, right? And because Victor Conte's trying to tell you that methylphenephrine is 10 times more powerful, right, than clenbuterol, and he's trying to tell you phentermine is this wonder drug, that's bullshit, guys. He's taking you for a long ride, right? Taking you for a long ride. So a lot of people have criticisms and complaints. If you really wanted these drug tests to get back quicker, right, you'd have to use someone like USADA, right? You'd have to use someone like USADA because USADA has they're in charge of the adjudication process. So they don't just test the athletes, give you the results, and say, hey, you do what you want. They actually hand down suspensions like UCAD does. Both UCAD and USADA do in and out of competition, right? They do random testing. Both orgs do, right? So it's not the organization, right, per se. It's the process in itself, right? It's a process in itself. So if you're VADA and you're drug-free sport and you're outsourcing your DCOs and your BCOs through IDTM, and you don't have them on your staff already, right? Then it may not be as smooth as a process. It's gonna takes time, right, to facilitate all that, because you're outsourcing your DCOs, right? Using a company from Sweden, whereas USADA or UCAD, they're right there. USADA's based in the United States. They got a lot more staff, right? They got contracts with the UFC. Yeah, they actually have a contract with the PFL uses USADA as well too, right? And Christine says, yeah, when we send those urine tests out, we get them back in about 2 or 3 days, right? You don't have a problem with USADA getting the test back quick. They're not outsourcing the DCOs. That could be a problem. I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but it could be a potential problem, right? And I've already explained the issue with the very few amount of WADA accredited labs. That's an issue, right? So when you hear people say, oh, we need to expedite the results. Well, do you want the test done right? Do you want the lab to do a thorough test and test for the whole panel of the banned substances? Or do you just want an expedited test and you don't want the test done right? Because you want to start taking shortcuts, then guess what? The tests are not going to be done correctly, right? Then you won't be able to test for all the substances then. And that list grows every year, guys. That list grows every year. So my only problem with VADA, I'll give you my list of problems with VADA. You have this guy, Victor Conte, out there. Again, he has a right to do whatever. He has a right to make a living. He did his time. He do whatever he wants, right? He's not doing anything illegal. Neither is Margaret Goodman, right? But you have a guy out there shaming people on Twitter, right? On social media. Why aren't you doing VADA testing? Why aren't you doing VADA testing? Why aren't you doing VADA testing? Oh, I'm suspicious there's no VADA testing. So you're basically you're doing the same thing that was done to you, and you didn't like it when it was done to you, when people were suspicious of you, right? Oh, well, they did all these people that were investigating me, they didn't do it in a fair way or a legal way, or it was basically entrapment. The way they were digging through my trash, they were going to my dumpster, they obtained all this information illegally. But you didn't like when you were being accused, right? And maybe they were overcharging you, right? Maybe they even exaggerated the things that you did, right? Who knows? But what was being done to you, you're doing the same thing to these boxers. Oh, well, if you're not going to do the VADA testing, right, then I'm suspicious. Oh, well, USADA is not as good as VADA. And what proof do you have to support your claims? You have no background. I can pull up scientific studies to support things that I'm saying. I can get information from medical journals, right? And I'm not proud to say this, but I've taken some of these drugs myself. And I know that's anecdotal, right? I've never taken anabolics, right? But I've taken a lot of these other stimulants, right? A lot of them. And I know what they do, and I know how long they stay in the system. And I know once I stop taking them, all of the benefit that I got is gone, right? But again, the goal Victor Conte set forth when he was sitting down consulting Margaret Goodman is this. We got to make it so we can catch as many people as possible, right? So we can say we're catching more people and we're better than everyone else. But guess what? You're not really catching more people. USADA's not catching more people, right? Drug-free sports not catching more people. Guess who's catching more people? The WADA accredited labs, who all three of you use. So nobody's doing nothing, right? Victor Conte has convinced people that Billy Joe Saunders is a drug cheat because he took cold medicine. Or Brandon Rios is a drug cheat because he more than likely took a tainted supplement. Or that Oscar Valdez is a drug cheat because he more than likely took a tainted supplement, and it was out of competition. So technically, if it was under the WADA protocol, he wouldn't have failed the test. So if VADA wants to be taken seriously, then they need to stop listening to people like Victor Conte, right? And then, with all due respect, Gabe and I got in this conversation about therapeutic use exemption, right? And he was like, "Well, USADA was I saw once that USADA had a seminar on therapeutic use exemption, right? Okay. I have to find I have to find this here, right? Because VADA also talks about therapeutic use exemption here. More specifically, Margaret Goodman does, right? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let me just find this. Because everyone loves to just automatically assume, okay, here it is. Like other sports, so Goodman says, I'm going to repeat the whole thing. So Goodman says IDTM is one of the most respected companies in the world, right? Samples are tested at the UCL lab, which is approved by the World Anti-Doping Agency, right? Like other professional sports, including Major League Baseball, VADA athletes can apply for a therapeutic use exemption, TUE, if they are required to take medication that might be banned, right? So that's the problem. This is why you don't ban stimulants out of competition, right? Because a lot of times they're going to be in supplements and they're not going to be listed on the label, and they may be in a cold medicine. If you look at if you look at a cold medicine and you turn the back of that bottle or that spray or whatever you're taking, those ingredients on that little bottle are so small, you're not going to know every fucking thing in there. So once again, if they're required to take a medication that may be banned. So you may not even think you need to file a therapeutic use exemption because you don't even know the full ingredients, because once again, I repeat, the supplement industry is not FDA regulated, right? And DMAA was found to be contaminated in 100 supplements when they looked over the government records, right? And this was done research by Vox website here on the internet. I can post the article if you want, right? But Victor Conte's not going to tell you this, right? So Goodman says it's imperative that VADA is transient as possible with its testing protocols and procedures. So with no disrespect to Gabe, but he was like, oh, well, USADA is basically, giving seminars on therapeutic use exemptions. Gabe, with all due respect, people that are taking therapeutic use exemptions, right, that are prescribed by a doctor, it's for medicinal purposes sometimes, Gabe. Not everyone's looking to game the system when they get a therapeutic use exemption. Insulin is a PED, right? Insulin's a PED. Insulin helps an athlete replenish glycogen quicker if it's taken exogenously, right? And your muscle is 75% glycogen, right? So by replenishing your glycogen quicker and more efficiently by taking insulin, which Victor Conte gave to all of his athletes, that was part of the cocktail. It was the THG, the insulin, and the growth hormone, and he would give them like a stimulant, right? But he would give them the stimulant more often before the competition. Right? So insulin is a PED. Athletes use it and abuse it, right? That's fine, right? It's not fine, but it's fine that we know about it, right? So insulin in itself, because it helps you replenish your glycogen faster as an athlete, helps you recover quicker, gives you energy, right? Helps repair your muscles quicker. That's a PED, right? So if someone's a diabetic and they're prescribed to take insulin, like family members that I have in my family, right? Are we going to say they can't take insulin? Someone has asthma. Are we going to say they can't use an inhaler? Right? So how far we want to go with this, people? Right? Because Conte wants to take it all the way. Right? Conte wants to take it all the way. Fuck it. We're gonna catch everybody so we can say we're better than everyone else. And this has nothing to do with Alycia Baumgardner or Eddie Hearn, in a sense that those substances that Alycia Baumgardner tested positive for, they're banned in and out of competition. So this isn't the case. The reason why I'm trying to say this is the implication that Eddie Hearn used drug-free sport because they're not as stringent as VADA, right? And to imply that they're not as reputable or as effective or as competent as VADA, when I explain to you they're pretty much the same because they both use IDTM and they both use the same labs, right? The reason why I'm going through all this and I'm going off on a tangent, I'm going down a different rabbit hole, is I'm trying to tell you that a lot of people in this industry have been misled by Victor Conte. Journalists who work for Victor Conte, write articles for Victor Conte, who are sponsored by Victor Conte, right? Who advertise their supplements, Victor Conte supplements, on their websites and on their YouTube channels, right? They're being led to believe and repeat his talking points, right? It's a problem because, yeah, we do have a drug problem in the sport. And probably 80% of the top athletes are using PEDs. But here's the problem, guys, just like anything else. A lot of times when there's a problem, a lot of people don't just look for the correction. They end up making an overcorrection. And what's happening right now is an overcorrection. Okay? Let's catch people for the real stuff, right? And let's not try to say one agency is better than the other because they're testing, people are coming up positive for cold medicine, tainted supplements, heart medication, fertility drugs. And the reason why I defend Conor Benn a little bit here is this. It's just happening too many times where the VADA test is coming up positive and the UCAD test is not, or the commission test is not, or Chinese anti-doping test is not, whatever, right? And I just find it hard to believe that he would be taking Clomid. Oh, well, because Clomid is just not it's not an effective drug for performance enhancement. It's not a good drug. Bodybuilders take it after a cycle to normalize their test, like their estrogen levels, to prevent aromatization. Well, he probably took it because he just finished a cycle. Again, like, why would you take an illegal drug to cover up another illegal drug? I'm just saying, and there was such a trace amount in there. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm questioning that whole Conor Benn situation, and it is possible that that maybe that sample was contaminated. I don't know, but I have some skepticism there. I have reasonable doubt that maybe something went wrong with that sample. That's all I'm saying. I'm not running. And again, I've been very critical of Eddie Hearn over the years. And I've been called the Eddie Hearn hater. But I can't sit here and not talk about this misinformation that's being put out there. There's no way this is Eddie Hearn's fault. It's impossible that this is Eddie Hearn's fault, because nobody is going to purposely contaminate a sample, right? Under the request of Eddie Hearn. The person that, he's running a company, right? The trouble he could get into, the trouble the testing organization or IDTM could get into by doing that. I mean, those are felony offenses, guys. Felony offenses. So I'm not buying that. That's ridiculous that he would, in any way, shape, or form, contaminate those samples. What I am questioning is how efficient is the process, right? That's what I'm questioning. And VADA can do whatever they want. They don't, if they want to create their own protocol just so they can catch more people taking cold medicine, that's their choice. They can fucking have at it, right? If they want to keep listening to Victor Conte, right? And if they want to sit there and allow Victor Conte to at them on tweets shaming people to use VADA and nobody else, right? When he has no proof, no scientific data, evidence, right, to prove that VADA is better than anyone else, and he wants to sit there and tell everyone how bad USADA is. Why? Because they caught you? Because they caught you? And when they caught you, they weren't catching you for giving people cold medicine, right? You were giving people THG, and you were trying to tell them THG is not as effective as other steroids. Like, you're trying to minimize the effect of THG, but yet you're going to turn around and maximize the effect of phentermine? Phentermine, a fucking drug that middle-aged women are getting to fucking lose weight? Lance Armstrong, right, didn't take phentermine. He took fucking EPO, bro. All right, so stop telling people, stop saying telling people and misleading people and sensationalizing things just because you want to promote VADA, right? So you can clout chase a little bit and help sell your supplements. Again, anyone who believes Victor Conte's all of a sudden just turned a new leaf and he's doing this for virtuous reasons, cut it out, guys. Come on. Come on. He's trying to sell supplements. He's trying to sponsor athletes. He's trying to refer athletes to get these tests. And again, I don't want to, I could probably get sued for saying this, but if it's like anything else, the more you buy of something, right? The more you buy of something, if you buy something in quantity, more often than not, what happens? You get a discount on what you're buying. So because he's referring so many people to these VADA tests and he's sponsoring the tests, he's paying for the tests, right? Probably paying for the test with the money that all these athletes that he's consulting are paying him, right? And in turn, VADA could be referring athletes, hey, I mean, you need help with some performance enhancement, and we'll help you out with supplements, right? Well, I want to take ZMA. Like I heard ZMA was good. Where can I get some good ZMA? Oh, well, go on this. There's a website called Snacks. They sell all these types of stuff. I mean, again, I can't prove any of this, but it's pretty suspicious. Victor wants to talk about suspicious. He wants to say this looks suspicious, that looks suspicious. Guess what, Victor? And I'm sorry, Margaret, I like you, but this looks suspicious. So you may want to probably pull Victor aside and tell him, maybe you want to stop adding us in tweets and shaming people to take VADA testing, right? Maybe you want to stop saying, well, if you're not taking VADA, then you're probably, or not saying, I strike that. Maybe you need to stop implying if you're not taking VADA, if you're not using VADA testing, then that's suspicious, implying that you're taking PEDs. You may want to stop doing that. That's a bad look. I'm just giving you some advice, because that's why people may not want to use you, right? People are asking for testing, and then they're coming up positive. It's I don't know, man. And it's always IDTM. It's always IDTM. Connect the dots, guys. Connect the dots. That's all I can tell you. So you want to ask why drug-free sport was used instead of VADA, right? Well, what difference is it? If both orgs are using IDTM, and both orgs are sending the samples to the Salt Lake City lab. What difference does it make? Well, why were those samples lying around for 9 days? You want to know why? You have questions about why those samples are lying around for 9 days? Let me help you out. If you have questions, right? If you have questions, right? Why don't you call IDTM? Their phone number is 46 8 555 10 900. Or if you want to email them, let's put their email. Anyone wants to know why those samples took so long, right? Send a message to this email, and they can probably tell you. Again, that's what Frank Warren said. He has no way of knowing that because they follow the same WADA protocol. I'm gonna read you. Okay, our services out of competition testing. Okay. Documents and doping control equipment approved by VADA in accordance with WADA, International Standard for Testing and Investigations, following the rules of relevant international federation. Our DCOs and BCOs collect the sample, right? Testing. So again, Frank Warren is saying that, probably heard someone say it, but again, where's your source, Frank Warren? It's utterly ludicrous to believe that. And Frank Warren, no disrespect to him, I'm not taking shots at him, but hasn't always been the most accurate when he's made statements. And I'm sure Eddie Hearn will come out and do an interview. He'll do an interview, and he'll debunk what Frank Warren said. So again, they're all the same in many ways. I would argue USADA and UCOD are better than VADA because they have they have their own staff, they have their own BCOs and DCOs. Number one, that's one advantage, right? Number two, they actually handle the adjudication process. You don't think he would do that because he's liable to get sued? Again, you can't get sued for lying. Okay? You can't get sued for because he can turn around and say someone told him that, and that's what he believed. He didn't. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to do that. You want to again. You just can't sue someone for defamation. Just like, let me ask you this. What happened to that Jake Paul when Jake Paul accused Eddie Hearn of fixing the scorecards? What happened to that case? Where did that go? Stop, please. Please. Stop being a contrarian. Stop just disagreeing for just for the sake of disagreeing. Show me proof that they don't test for EPO and HGH. Show me proof. Find it very hard to believe that's the case. I just read to you, they follow the WADA protocol. Okay? I just told you they follow the WADA protocol. What else do you want me to say? WADA protocol is this. No, you're disagreeing that they didn't test for EPO, right? They didn't test for EPO. Just like Conte makes statements without evidence to support it and back it up. You can't believe Frank Warren when he said that. You can't believe that. You just can't say Frank Warren said it. Frank Warren has never used them before. Right? He's never used them before. So how would he know what they test for and what they don't test for? You're quoting Frank Warren, and you're saying he's telling the truth because you don't want to get sued. Frank Warren has lied many times. Bob Arum has lied many times. Okay? Defamation is very hard to prove. Okay? Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, right? Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren do interviews every day, and they probably tell 10 lies a day about each other. They don't have enough hours in the day to sue each other for every lie that they tell about each other. That would be a never-ending fucking slew of fucking defamation cases. Bob Arum once lied to me and told me Tyson Fury took both COVID shots when he only took one of them and he didn't do the second one. Because Fury came out and said it. I'm not saying he lied. I don't want to say he lied. Maybe he lied. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he knew. Maybe he didn't know. I don't know. But these guys make misstatements all the time. Again, I'm willing to let it play out. But what I'm not gonna sit here and just accept is there's an issue because drug-free sport was used, and this wouldn't have happened if VADA was used. Again, Conor Benn got tested on July 25th, and he got tested on September 1st, right? His first test result took close to a month to come back. His second one took a little over 3 weeks, right? And it wasn't reported till October 5th. No, I think it was October 5th or 6th that he tested positive for clomiphene. So again, this whole thing that if VADA was being used, that this whole situation would have been different. It's bullshit. Because again, like I've said, and I have to keep repeating myself, when you have this large panel of drugs that are being tested for, you're doing urine and blood. That's number one. You have such few amounts. You have 2 WADA accredited labs in the United States, and you have 1 accredited lab in Great Britain. And you have all these samples going to one lab. And then you hear people, oh, we need to do something about the process. You can't make this process simpler if the amount of drugs you're testing for goes up every year. If you want to have more accredited labs, that's one way to help out. Or if you want to stop putting all these ridiculous fucking substances on the list that are in cold medication, right? Then that's another way to help out. That's all I'm saying. Ben denied the egg thing. Someone says something and we just roll with it. That's the thing. They're saying it could have been contaminated. Because if again, you have IDTM taking one sample, right? And you have UCAT taking another sample. Same thing with Brandon Rios. IDTM, one sample. Chinese anti-doping, another sample. Why is one coming clean, one's coming back positive? I mean, again, we wait. I want to know. Want to know. That's it. Prove to me VADA's better. Explain to me why. If they're both using IDTM and they're both using the same labs. That's all. That's my only argument. Oh, well, why did he use drug-free sport? WBC denied it too. Again, don't just listen to one side. We gotta do better, people. Even myself, I try to strive to do better myself. Right? When something comes out, We gotta be a little. We can't just jump the gun and try to be first, and we can't just make assumptions and not do the research. Someone on Twitter put out that statement, and everyone was doing egg memes, and I never heard Conor Benn or anyone everyone denied that. Everyone denied that. We got to do better. We got to do better. I never heard it was his defense was eggs. He denied it. Again, these are straw man points you're making. He's saying that his sample could possibly be contaminated. That's what he's saying. That's what I've heard him say on multiple times. That's what I've heard him say. Never heard him say eggs. Never. Not once. That's all I'm saying. They're doing the investigation. I just told you 13 fucking times. He is saying that he believes the sample could have been contaminated that they took. That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. Explain to me why. Can't sue because he has to. You can't sue someone without. There is legal things going on here, right? There is legal things going on here. That's what he's saying. He's got his lawyers working on something. I don't know exactly what the legal process is. I don't know, but they're doing an investigation. Again, you want quick. You want quick. Eggs, yeah, we'll grab that one. Eggs, let's grab it. Wait. Fucking put the brakes on. Just put the fucking brakes on. You're going too fucking fast. Put the fucking brakes on. That's it. You want everything quick. What do you want? It hasn't been 14 months, actually. It's October last year. It hasn't been 14 months. It hasn't even been a year yet. October of 2022. It's been 10 months. Again, let's just be honest and everything. Like, stop exaggerating. Let's just tell the truth. His test results did not come back until September. It's not been a year yet. Just telling you. The fight was canceled in October. The samples were collected in July, right? Basically, the end of September, beginning of the second result, the first result came back August 25th or so, right? Still hasn't been a year yet. It's not been 14 months. And the process didn't even start until October, when UKAD officially canceled the fight. They refused to sanction it. It hasn't even been a year yet, basically. Again, what difference does it why do you want it to be long? Why do you want it to be long so you could say that the process has been longer than it should be, so you can criticize the process? Just let it fucking play out. Just like we want, why does the testing take so long? Why is it legal? Because it's a legal process. Okay? The OJ, any legal process takes a long time. You don't just snap your fingers and have something be done with. It's not how it works. It's not how it works, guys. It takes time. I know you want everything to be done when you want it to be done, but that's not how it works, bro. The question you should be asking is, why does Simon Jordan keep talking about it? 10 months later. Why is Simon 10, 11 months later? Why does Simon Jordan keep talking about it? Why does he bring it up every fucking month since it's happened? Why doesn't he? Why don't you ask that question? Why don't you ask them? First of all, I'm just going to tell you something. He's going to get his license back. I'm just telling you that. He's going to get his license back. Because UCOD is going to clear him, and the BBOC is going to license him. And the reason why it's taking so long is they want to make sure they're covering all their bases from a legal standpoint, because nobody here wants to get sued. That's why. That's why it's taking so long. Nobody here wants to get sued. Nobody here wants to be accused of doing something illegal, right? That's why it's taking so long. And if I'm Conor Benn, I'm not happy that it's taking so long, but I want the process to be done right. So in order, if it has to take long in order for the process to be done right, then so be it. So be it. So fucking be it. That's all. So fucking be it. Well, unfortunately, there's really no fights to talk about. And this is what happens. So people keep talking about this. And when they're talking about it, they're saying stupid things. So that makes me have to come on here and do what I do. Not that it's my job or I'm an authority that I'm supposed to do it, that I have to do it. But I just can't sit by and just listen to this ridiculous, stupid shit that's being put out there. That's all. Simon Jordan is getting involved because he wants clicks. Simple and plain. That's why he's getting involved. Well, B, why are you getting involved? Well, because people are saying that Eddie Hearn is the reason why the test took so long to come back, accusing him of taking the samples and hiding them in his closet, basically, where IDTM took the samples. They're the ones responsible for transporting. If you have a problem with how long the samples took, then you need to contact IDTM. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. B, why did the samples take so long to come? Here you go. Here's the link. Boom. Ask IDTM. Here you go. They'll tell you what happened. They'll tell you what happened. I mean, again, I'll admit this. I always try to give the fighter the benefit of the doubt. I really don't want Conor Benn to be. I don't want Conor Benn to be found guilty. Obviously, if the process plays out and it's discovered that it's his fault, then the punishment has to be what the punishment is. Same thing with Alycia. But there's guys out here that are celebrating when these guys get caught. They're rooting for these guys. Get rid of lifetime ban. What the fuck are you talking about? There's so much of a gray area here. You're going to give fucking Oscar Valdez a lifetime ban because he has trace amounts of fucking phenamine in his system 3 weeks before 3 weeks before a fucking fight? What the fuck are we doing here? You're going to give Brandon Rios a lifetime ban because he had DMAA in his fucking system? What the fuck are we doing here, bro? Stop. Fucking stop. It's ridiculous. All right, guys, it's about it, man. I ain't got really much more to talk about here, man. It is what it is. I will catch up with you guys later. Make sure you check out the Ringside Reporter podcast tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Everyone have a great day, man. I'll catch up.